It's 2 a.m. The house is completely still. You're not even sure why you're still awake, honestly, and your dog is doing the thing. The muffled little barks that go nowhere. The paws twitching like they're running somewhere important. The full-body flinch, the kind that makes you reach over automatically, not because they're scared, just because you are, a little, watching it. You can smell the Frito paw thing from here. That weird corn chip smell that nobody warned you about before you got a dog. You can see their chest rising and falling in the dark, slow and steady, and their face looks almost human when they dream. And then the question just arrives. Uninvited, completely serious. Is there something in there? Not just instinct, not just biology running on autopilot. Something that continues. Something that, and you feel slightly ridiculous even finishing this sentence, matters. In whatever way, souls matter. It's the oldest question we've never been brave enough to ask out loud about our dogs. Here's what we've been told. Animals operate on instinct. Consciousness, inner life, the felt quality of being someone. Those are human categories. Dogs feel hunger. They feel fear. They feel something we call pleasure when you open the treat bag and they start doing tippy taps on the kitchen tile. But depth, continuity, the sense that there's a self in there having an experience, that's us projecting. That's anthropomorphism. That's the word people use to make you feel slightly embarrassed for even asking. We've been trained to feel like the serious, rational position is to dismiss the question. Like caring too much about the answer is a little undignified. And I bought that for a long time. I think a lot of us did. Except, and this is the part that actually changes things, science has been quietly revising its position. So animals don't have inner lives, right? Except, actually wait. No, that's only half the story, and it's the half that stopped being true over a decade ago. In 2012, a prominent group of neuroscientists gathered in Cambridge and signed what became known as the Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness. These weren't fringe researchers. This was the establishment, and they formally concluded that non-human animals possess the neurological substrates for conscious experience. The establishment didn't announce it loudly. It didn't make the kind of headlines it deserved, but the position shifted, and most people missed it entirely. The question stopped being whether dogs experience. It became, how deep does that experience go? Dr. Gregory Berns at Emory University spent years putting dogs in MRI machines, voluntarily. Trained to stay still, no sedation, to study what's actually happening in there. What he found keeps me up at night a little. The brain structures dogs use to process emotion aren't analogous to the human limbic system. They're functionally identical. Joy, fear, love, grief. These aren't behavior performances dogs put on for treats. These are neurological events happening in structures we literally share with them. Cause. Look directly at camera. Scientists keep avoiding the word soul, but they keep describing it anyway. Sit with what a yes actually means for a second. Every dog who ever waited by a door, every dog pressed against a hospital bed or curled against a child having a nightmare, every goodbye at a vet clinic that felt to everyone in the room like something far more serious than losing a pet. You already know the answer. I think you've known it every single time you looked at them and felt looked back at. Not just seen, actually met. The science is catching up to something dog owners have quietly known for a long time and felt a little embarrassed to say out loud. And here's the biology of it, because it deserves more than just feelings. Dogs produce oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol in response to emotional and social experiences in patterns nearly identical to humans. Mark Bekoff, who spent decades on animal emotion research at the University of Colorado, argues dogs have what he calls rich inner lives, and he means that biochemically, not metaphorically. Glance down, then back up. Watch your dog do the full sploot in a sunbeam sometime. Just watch it happen. That's not purely thermoregulation. Every neurotransmitter in that body is doing something recognizable. This question is also older than you think. Aristotle debated animal souls. Indigenous traditions across cultures assumed animal consciousness without needing a debate. The Western rationalist position that animals are basically biological machines is historically recent and increasingly scientifically isolated. Dogs co-evolved alongside human consciousness for roughly 15,000 years. Whatever we became in that time, we became it alongside them. which means even the pug wheezing through another Tuesday with complete and total emotional sincerity has been part of this story longer than most human philosophical traditions. Short pause. I want to be fair to the skeptics here because they're not wrong about everything. The hard problem of consciousness is genuinely hard. You cannot verify subjective inner experience in any being other than yourself. Hold up a philosophy of mind textbook. Open it, close it. Here's what the skeptics keep glossing over, though we can't prove it for other humans either. We just collectively decided to extend the benefit of the doubt. The question is why we drew the line where we did. And then there's this. The most quietly devastating evidence didn't come from brain scans. It came from grief studies. Dogs who lose companions, human or animal, show behavioral and physiological changes consistent with mourning that persist for months. They're not responding to a missing resource. They're responding to an absence that had meaning. And meaning, by definition, requires an inner life to register it. The data walked in through the back door and arrived at the soul question anyway. You don't need certainty to act with meaning. If there's reasonable evidence of felt life, of something that continues, then every interaction carries weight. The zoomies after a long day, the tippy taps at the door when you've been gone for 20 minutes like you were deployed overseas, the slow blink right before they fall asleep against your leg. Sit quietly. Look at camera. Let the silence land for a real beat. You don't need a philosopher to tell you how to treat something that looks back at you like that. Go back to that bedroom. 2 a.m., the dream twitching, the muffled barks, the Frito paw smell, the rise and fall of breathing in the dark. You got the Cambridge Declaration now, the limbic system research, the grief studies, the 15,000 years of shared evolution. The question that felt embarrassing to ask turns out to be the one that neuroscience, philosophy, and evolutionary biology have all been circling from completely different directions. Something in there, something that dreams, something that dreams, something that loves and waits and looks back. The word science keeps avoiding. The word dog owners never stop using quietly, in private, when no one was listening. You already know it. And this video doesn't need to say it out loud. Before this video, before any research, before the Cambridge Declaration or the MRI studies, or Mark Bekoff, there was a moment with your dog where you just knew. Tell me that moment in the comments, not what you think, what you knew. Because honestly, that data sitting in your memory right now might be the most important data on this question that science hasn't figured out how to measure yet. And if you want to keep pulling on this thread, the next video goes somewhere even the researchers didn't expect. Don't miss it.